Kinda looks like you've been drinking my Guinness, dude. Anyway, Teenage Bounty Hunters, that's what we're talking about. This comes to us from Kathleen Jordan, who is the showrunner. Landed on Netflix, it's rated 15, and wow, it's a hit as far as I'm concerned. It's sitting on 86% right now on Rotten Tomatoes, and it looks at American culture through a very critical and very satirical lens, something that you really wouldn't expect from the trailer. I saw the trailer a while ago, and I thought to myself this was going to be kind of like a Nickelodeon, but for a little bit older teens. As I mentioned, this is a 15. The lead characters in it are 16 years old. They are fraternal twins, which means they're not identical, but they are twins. And you follow Sterling and Blair. And this is a really interesting show, as I mentioned just quickly, in the sense that it's very, very satirical. So you've got satire that looks at religion very, very heavily in this, because the two twins are very religious. They go to a Christian school. Their family is very Christian. They don't say bad words. At least not in front of the parents. So, and that shows the sort of the hypocrisy of a very, very religious upbringing and the sort of structure around that. You look at the school structure where you think everyone's going to be happy, happy, clappy, clappy. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, you've got a sort of bully who wants to be the most pious, but at the same time is quite a jerk. Her name's April, but I'll get to her in a little bit. So like I say, very, very religious. It looks at gender in this. It looks at race, as I said, so race, religion, gender. It looks at identity politics as far as the sort of patriarchal system is concerned. This is again through not only all those lenses, but this is also kind of through the lens of the Republican side of things, which the rest of the world doesn't really get to see very often. And the way it's done is not in a negative way. So they put things in front of you. And you can see what's going on, and it's up to you to decide whether you think what's going on is right or wrong. Kathleen Jordan is actually herself a Christian, or at least was born into a Christian family and was brought up in a very strict way. And that's why her exploration of these teens and their coming of age, in particular their sexual awakening, if you will.
Luke and I, we made love.
In your vagina?
Yeah.
I guess you're the sluttier twin now.
I know.
Is so fresh and so not on the nose, but at the same time it's very out there. And when I say very out there, I mean literally in the first episode, in the first scene, you have Sterling convincing her long-term boyfriend. Now this is not a guy she just picked up in a car. She is in a car, but she's been dating him for a long time, and she's convincing him to have sex with her, which is quite a reversal from what you usually see. You usually see the guy trying to convince the girl to have sex. No, these girls are independent, and they are very confident, which is great. And they don't get punished for that, like in a lot of other shows. So anyway, she literally convinces him to have sex with her by using the Bible and twisting certain phrases and palms or whatever. Palms, fuck it. And she gets what she wants, kind of story. And at the same time, literally in a car next door to her, you've got Blair with her long-term boyfriend, who kind of looks like a stoner, and she's literally giving him a hand job. And when he finishes, she asks for feedback. So you've got two slightly different minds over here with the sisters, both wanting to lose their virginity. Sterling gets a little bit sooner than Blair. You would have thought Blair would get there because she's a bit more rebellious than Sterling. Sterling is certainly the more pious looking on the surface, and Blair likes to think of herself as more of a rebel. So you've got, like I say, these two characters who are awakening at the age of 16. They take their dad's car out and they crash it accidentally. And what sort of proceeds after that is them hunting down the guy who smashed into their car. They've got shotguns because, of course, they're Republican, and of course they've got guns and they know how to use them. And this is where Bowser comes in. Bowser is this older, grizzled bounty hunter, and he sees these girls basically shooting out the tires of his car. And, he thinks to himself, hell, they're pretty good. And he kind of hires them and puts them under his wing and starts training them as being bounty hunters. So that's the sort of general gist of why the show is called Teenage Bounty Hunters. Interestingly, just because I did touch on the sexuality and the sexual themes in this, the show was originally called Slutty Teenage Bounty Hunters. And I'm glad that they dropped the slutty. Now, it would have made sense to me and this is going to sound so condescending, to a lot of intelligent viewers, because the slutty part, or the slutty angle or lens, would be coming from the very Christian world that they live in. They would be calling them sluts. Because one, as I mentioned, Sterling has sex with her boyfriend. This comes up later in the show. The school kind of turns their back on her and labels her as a slut. And it's that sort of hypocrisy that they're looking at and allowing you to decide whether she's done something wrong or whether she has done something right. But yeah, again, that's the sort of sexuality thing. And calling it Slutty Teenage Bounty Hunters, it wouldn't have worked for me, even though I understand why they would have done that. And the reason I mentioned sort of about the intelligence of a lot of viewers, I think this show works very well if you realize what's going on in it. You can watch it at one level and think, okay, it's a fun story. In this particular episode, they're going for this bad guy. They're going to hunt him down and arrest him. It's absolutely viciously funny as well, might I add. When I say hunting down and arrest him, it's not sort of going and killing people. It's, you know, that's the sort of monster episode per thing. But the show is smart. It is very, very smart. I caught myself quite often thinking of how similar in certain ways, in particular with dialogue, how similar it is to something like Community or Buffy. That's the level we're talking about here. We're looking at Dan Harmon sort of and Josh Whedon level of writing. It's very tight. And Kathleen Jordan, as I mentioned her earlier, that the showrunner, she actually co-wrote a lot of this herself. So I don't know what... I've never heard of her, to be honest with you. I know that she worked with an executive producer who had worked on Glow and a lot of other shows. So she had this sort of backing there. But the show is, as I mentioned, very, very, very smart. So yes, the acting is absolutely top-notch. We've got actress Addie Phillips, who plays Sterling, and we've got... Angelica Fellini, who plays Blair. I'm not quite sure how old they are in real world time as a IRL, because I've seen reports saying that they're 16, I've seen some reports saying they're 25, I've seen some reports saying they're 21, so I'm not quite sure why it's a hidden secret, or why it's so difficult, and why it's so obfuscated to try and find out how old they are, but nonetheless, they are absolutely brilliant. The timing between them is spot on. The quirks, the smirks, the witticisms that bounce backwards and forwards, either they're very, very convincing in their interviews and in real world, sort of showing themselves together, because they look like they get on very well. And it looks like that on the screen too. So maybe they hate each other in the real world, I doubt it. But you can see that there's chemistry between the two of them, and you can see that it worked so well on camera. I'm also going to point out now Bowser, who is absolutely brilliant. He's really, really great, because he also gets on very well. The chemistry there is real. And he's the kind of older guy, because he is a much older guy, who is muttering under his breath permanently, constantly going and saying things like, "This is how I die," when the two twins are talking to each other in the way that they talk to each other, because the way they speak to each other, only 16-year-olds understand. Now I'm completely lost with half of what the shit they're saying. So he's rolling his eyes half the time going, what are they saying? And he does a superb job with it. He really is absolutely brilliant. He also has his own... I've got so many notes over here, I'm completely buggering up the script. He has his own story. So we've got the twins, as I mentioned, they are the leads here. You've got him, who is the sort of third lead. You have their parents as well, which you get to sort of flesh out a little bit later in the season. But he's the number 3, so you're following him. He's got his own love interest. I forget the character's name, but she basically gives him the jobs that he's doing, the bounties that he hunts down. He even has his own sort of like competition. Much like how Sterling has her competition in the guise of April, who is kind of like the mean bitch at school. You've got Bowser, and he's got his sort of competitor, this guy who is played by Cliff Method Man Smith. It's Kadeem Hardison, that's the guy who plays Bowser. So you've got his sort of competitor, who is a YouTube channel guy, who arrests people in that very bad boys, and he has a camera filming him as he busts doors down and shit. So you've got his entire world going on in the background too. You've got a couple of other notable characters that are worth mentioning, who are really in the background. I mean, I mentioned April. April becomes quite prominent in the show towards the third act of the first season. Really hoping there's going to be a second season. But you've also got, so like I mentioned, you've got April, she's brilliant. You've also got Ezekiel, who's played by Eric Grays. He's fucking hysterical. He only says a few words in the entire show, but his condescending sort of look, the sass that comes off him, he's one of the groupies of April. So April's got 2 groupies. She's got Ezekiel and another girl who's apparently very dumb, and they're constantly looking down on Sterling and looking down on the sisters because they don't like them, because they like April kind of thing. It's a typical college thing that's going on there. So that's absolutely brilliant and hysterical too. Just jumping back into what I mentioned very briefly at the beginning of this rather long-winded and now 9-minute long review, they also touch on gender and on race and religion. Touched the religion, dealt with that, looked at sexuality, dealt with that. They do touch on race. For example, Bowser is a black guy, and he's constantly making quirks and quibs, in the background about how he would not get away with certain things that the young 16-year-old white girls would do. I mentioned again that this is a Republican family, and that is also brought up. There's one particular scene which is hysterical, where they go into a museum That's like a sort of Confederate museum with a whole bunch of flags, like the Confederate flag and shit. And you've got this very openly racist character called Jim, who sees Bowser come in, he's like, oh god. But then when he realizes that Bowser knows about statues, and they bring up the whole statue thing, the whole beheading of statues is brought up in this. Topical! But I mean, Jim then sort of like suddenly warms up to Bowser. Bowser still doesn't like him, and Bowser makes some comment like, yeah, whatever, man. And Jim turns around and says, man, I identify as a she. There's a 2020, So just that, I mean, it throws the very one-dimensional background characters into suddenly a very, very non-stereotypical light. Suddenly the characters are not what you think they are. Yes, he might be a Republican and look very much like a redneck, racist hick, to be honest with you. But no, he also identifies as a she, and he's got a couple of friends who also identify as she's. So this show doesn't do everything, doesn't do most things, as a matter of fact, in a very straightforward, normal way. It's done in a very layered way. And that is why this show is so smart. You can watch it, I think, as a easy, binge watch 10 episodes. It's 10 episodes long. Each one's about 50 minutes, almost an hour. The lengthing is actually very good. It's very well done. This because the writing is so superb, you don't get bored of it. And you can watch this in a very easy sort of light-hearted way, or you can watch it and you can go, my God, the social critique that's going on in the show is brilliant. There's a couple of nice mechanisms that they throw into, like for example, because they're twins, there's that whole age-old idea that twins communicate in an ESP kind of way. So every now and again they will look at each other, and they'll start communicating with each other. No one else can hear what they're saying, and this is done to a great comedic effect. Like sometimes when one of the characters technically can't even speak because they're gagged, is able to completely communicate in full-on conversation with his sister just because. And that's quite fun. So it takes the reality out of it. And it's a very real show. A lot of the things that are happening are very real. Like when the mother finds out that she's been having sex, the warmth that is shown, but then the instant sort of blocking because the religion's dictating that's not allowed. So there's a lot of interesting dichotomy sort of things that are sort of repelling at the same time as pulling together. And that's why this show pulled me in big time. I watched this over 2 days. I watched it with my friend Trevor, who's actually left a nice little sort of conclusion at the end, and I'll read it out to you. And I think any adult would love this. I think teenagers definitely need to watch it. I can definitely see how a lot of parents would not appreciate this. In particular, very religious parents might not appreciate this. And people who maybe take themselves very serious would not appreciate this either. But like I say, I'm glad that the critics certainly are loving it. And I'm really hoping that the cliffhanger that they leave you on at the end of season 1 will at least be dealt with in season 2. Because certain other shows, like I'm Really Not Okay With This, have been cancelled recently on Netflix. And I'm hoping they won't cancel this. Please, for God's sake, Netflix, don't cancel it. So anyway, Trevor mentioned something quite interesting, or sent me something quite interesting as a conclusion. I was going to do a whole me pretending to be a twin thing. Maybe I will, I don't know. Depends on how many of these I've had a little later. Twin Trevor here, and I completely agree with you, boy. So he says, in conclusion, this is a refreshingly different and nuanced take on the standard coming-of-age tale that doesn't rely on stale stereotypes to deliver and delve into its characters. Even secondary characters, as I mentioned, have realistic motivation to undergo their own personal journeys, and they certainly do, particularly with characters like the boyfriend, April, for example, through their interactions with cast. It's very clear in the so-called wokeness. I did see a few comments and people on Google saying, this show would be really great if it wasn't so woke. Well, this is the world that we live in, so it's not being woke, it's just being very realistic, and it's putting a mirror up to the reality that we're living in right now, 2020, if we can call this fucking year a reality at all. Anyway, so it's very clear on its so-called political issues. It's pretty progressive, I do like that, very much so, and it communicates that message through easily relatable characters. They're certainly already easily relatable, and they're very funny and lovable. But also doesn't lecture you. That's what I said at the very beginning. It puts these things in front of you. You get to decide whether they're good things or not. If you don't like it, obviously don't watch it kind of story. But you can decide whether they are portraying Christianity in a very negative way. To me, it's showing Christianity and general strong religious structures the way that I look at them. But obviously other people are not going to be seeing that either because they're not me. And they do this, and like I said, it's a very difficult line to tread this, as Trevor says here as well, in that you can easily veer off in one direction and piss off a whole bunch of viewers. Personally, I think they walk a very fine line, but I've got a much broader threshold to these sort of things. So I can imagine that some people, on the negative side of things, I can imagine that some people might not like the show because of that. I could definitely see parents not allowing their kids to watch this if they are homophobic, for example, if they don't like the Republican Party being looked at in a negative way. They also look at the Conservative Party in a negative way as well. Democrats, or how they would in America. So on the negative side of things, that is definitely there. It's a heavy load that is, like I say, hidden through very tight script writing, fun script writing too. You're never bored in this, ever. And like I said, the jokes, good God, the jokes. I mean, it's definitely got the watchability thing again, because once you've watched it, you're like, okay, I'm going to go back in, because half the script I wasn't able to hear, or half the dialogue, because I was too busy laughing. So for me, this, I mean, it's sitting on, as I mentioned, 86% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that is completely justified. This is a double cheeseburger with all the chili sauce in the world out of 10 for me. And I'm really looking forward to season 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and watch the show. Let me know what you think in the comments. Catch you guys later. Cheers.